Howdy folks, Doc here with Last Best Tool, and today I want to go over some of the differences between the Leatherman Multitools and kind of how to decide maybe what the best one is for your use, or even what the differences are to help you decide or help you get the most from it. This was a follow-up. As a follow-up, I was about to do this when that UPS truck arrived and I ended up with my new scope. So now I'm getting back to this, and I wanted to go over a couple of the main differences. Leatherman is actually a kind of a neat company, unique company. It's mostly American, out of Oregon, and basically Pete Leatherman started out, I think he was on a motorcycle trip across Europe, and he was looking for a pair of pliers or something, and decided maybe it'd be cool if he could put a knife on his pair of pliers. So he started exploring with a pair of pliers, like welding tools onto it, and ended up with something pretty crude. Took a while, like 10 years before he dialed it in. This is one of the earlier ones, the Leatherman tool. It just has pressed steel handles here. Notice that everything's on the inside, no accessible tools on the outside but the ruler. And pretty small as far as the plier part of it, but that really launched it. And Leatherman is so successful that Leathermans are now, it's both a registered trademark, a noun. I imagine you could use it as a verb if you tried. But I've actually heard people say, well, they've got a buck Leatherman or a sog Leatherman or something like that. That's kind of like if the Tundra, or how about the Tacoma? Toyota Tacoma was so incredibly universal that people said, well, I have a Ford 150 Tacoma. Well, that's kind of the same thing when people are saying I've got like a buck Leatherman. Or when people mean Leatherman, it's now Kleenex. It's the name of a multi-tool. So basically what it is handles and pliers generally. There are all kinds of other cool evolutions that have popped off of this design, but basically it's a pivot, pair of pliers, generally a needle nose, cutters, and then in the handles are additional tools. And this is the original Leatherman Wave. And the Wave is I think their best-selling, most popular of the Leatherman multi-tools. They're incredible. I have a handful of them. This is the new Wave Plus. They've updated it. One of the differences here, if I open both these up, they've updated the cutting knives so they're replaceable. One of the reasons they do that is Leatherman's got a 25-year warranty. I mean, if I literally took this, opened this blade here, grabbed another pair of pliers and snapped it off, they would either fix it or send me a new Leatherman, a new one of these. And they would send me, since this is an old Wave, they would send me the brand new Wave. And by doing that, they also get to see where the failures are, and in fact that's part of their warranty process, is what happened or what were you doing when the multi-tool failed. Because they learn from that, and if a majority of the failures are, the knives are dull, or you cut something and it chipped the blade and it doesn't work, or the knife, the cutting tool surface here. And so what do? They update it. So this is actually the Wave Plus, which is the third version of the Wave. This is an original one, and I don't know if I might have a middle one here somewhere. But anyway, so the differences. Well, the first one you might notice when you walk into a store is there's a bunch of prices, and they go from, the $30-ish area to the, let's see, where'd it go? To something like this. Actually, the Wave right now is around 100. You might be at 70 for something like that. And then you go up over or to 100, and then over 100, and then this is the titanium handled ones. These are like 160, or the Mutt, and as a military tool, and this one's like 180. So what am I getting here as I move through these? And I'll put it in kind of a pretty crude perspective. You're getting a better, more ergonomic tool, something that they seem to have put more effort into designing it for the use. And I'll use these two here as an example. This one here is the Super Tool, and this one here is the Surge. So this one's probably a little over $100, and this one's probably, I don't know, a little over $50 or $60. So what's the difference? The plier part of it appears to me to be about the same. But then, if you look at the handles, this is basically stamped steel. Nothing fancy there. It's just got a rivet just punched in. This would be a lot simpler and easier to make versus a nice, these look forged, and they've got security Torx bits inside here for servicing, adjusting. It's more parts. It's a more complex handle design. It feels way better in the hand than this. This is blocky. It's got sharper edges. So if you just want some tools, you know, in a large Leatherman, then you go with that. If you plan on using it, I mean, like deliberately using it, that's what you're going to be doing with it, not just having it handy, then this one makes sense. If we go in a little deeper here and pop out the cutting edges, so there are two knives on this one. Let's look at the two knives, see what this one offers. Okay, first of all, on the nicer one, the Surge, you're going to see that the blade is bigger. It's finished better. This is just kind of a satin. I can see more tool marks in it. This is a larger blade. It looks to be about the same thickness, but definitely the girth there. Higher edge. It's got the cutout for your thumb purchase for one-handed opening. If we reverse it and compare the other two, the serrated, again, the same differences, much better. Much more effort was put into this blade than into the less expensive one. So you're paying for that. If we go to, let's say, scissors, let's see what this one's got for its additional tool. This one's got a file. Obviously, the scissors are going to be a little bit more machining than a file. This one's got a handful of other little bits in here. Now, the way this locking mechanism works is pretty basic. I'm going to close this here to show you. So it's just a spring-loaded tab here. For a locking mechanism on this one, it's got something a little bit more machined and engineered. In this case, when I open these smaller bits, let's pop one out here on both. Closed it up, sorry. There we go. What are we looking at here? We're probably looking at about the very similar. They're slightly different in shape, but as far as the quality, I bet they're the same. Looks like they've gone to a thicker slotted. Nope, that's it right there. They've got a smaller one, so a little bit finer here. So those two are the switch out on this end. And then the locking mechanism here, I'll put these down, uses like the same size or same kind of notch in the blade. Let me put these down. But it's a little cruder design. Probably about as effective, but this one actually behaves, it's a little bit more refined. They polished that up. It's a smaller target. Not a huge difference. They both work, but that's where you're spending more money. This one here, let me pop out on this side here. What do we have here? Okay, on this side, here's the smaller tip. We've got a Phillips here and a can opener. Can openers are probably the same, But what do we have here? We have got a bit driver right here. So you can use the interchangeable Leatherman bits that are flat, and you can buy sets of bits like these that actually allow you all kinds of torques, Allen, a range of different screwdriver types and sizes, and even something like this, which is probably mimicking a 1/4 inch. You can get adapters like this that fit in here. So I can now move to an extension. So there's just more you can do with this. So that's what you're paying for. Otherwise, they're very similar on the large. The same is true when you move to, say, the wave and below. This is just so much nicer in your hand. The titanium one, it's not much lighter. I like the feel of this a little bit better, and they've gone to the higher steel, and I did point that out in another video, that if you look at some of these, I'll pop out 3 of these here, whoops, that one, and I think I used this one in my last explanation. So this is pretty much this whole tool on the implements on it is 420HC. It's a standard stainless steel, nothing exciting. If you harden it correctly, works great. Doesn't hold an edge as long as what we're capable of today, and it's a little on the brittle side for a narrow blade, but good enough. That's what, in fact, it's probably snap blades is probably, I would guess, the #1 warranty on these things. There are other blades that are called, other blade steels that are called super steels, and this is a 154 cm, which is kind of the base model of the, or base type of super steels. It's crucible powder steel that this thing is using, which costs a little bit more. They've done a little bit more lightening, skeletonizing it, hence the Skele-tool, fairly light. This has got the carbon fiber inserts. And then you can go, in this case, up to an S30V, which is a good high-end super steel. I think it's critical when you get to thinner blades to use one of the super steels, just because stainless is, for this kind of a tool, it's a little bit more risky for the regular lower quality stainless steels. So the blade steel can make a difference, but then probably every other tool in here is the same steel across the board. So with some of the upper ones, it's ergonomics, simplicity, finish. There are tools on the inside, tools on the outside. The original Leatherman, they put them basically on the inside of the frame, and other companies still do this, which means nothing's available out here. So you had to open the pliers, and then if you wanted the knife, now you got the pliers open. So what could you do? Could I close this? I could do that. All that opening and closing risks, sliding your hand across the blade. And boy, that's a thin little small profile blade. No lock either. They don't make it anymore. It's long gone. Another difference, this is the Leatherman Sidekick, and this is the Leatherman Wingman. There's a third one that's similar in this form that's called the Rebar, and it's probably in one of my cars. I don't know where it is. And they're very similar. The difference between these two, I'm showing you right here. Basically, instead of a serrated blade on the Wingman, on the Sidekick, you've got just a standard smooth blade across. Instead of scissors, you have a saw. These particular Leathermans use a frame lock right there. I mean, a liner lock. So they actually release in the middle. And they have spring-loaded handles. So the handles pop up, and that's one of the differences on these particular Leathermans. Let me open that guy. Let's see. Close the scissors first, and then open it. So they both have spring handles, and the springs, they can be nice. They can also shoot it out of your hand. Frankly, I don't like them, and one of the reasons is that the spring, I mean, look how far out that goes on my hand. It's not a subtle thing, you know, if I was doing some smaller work. And a good Leatherman, I have no trouble dropping my own spring inside, my own little one. And more than likely, if I'm doing some fine work, this might go shooting out of my hand. But that's the choice. Leatherman's giving you options, and you get to choose as long as you can somehow decipher between all of these different options. On an upper end, this is the Leatherman Mud. It's more of a firearm tool designed for maintenance of some specific firearms. This particular one's got all kinds of little features. It's got some screw ports. Those are designed to attach to other cleaning tools. It has obviously the replaceable bits, but then also bit storage. Can pop this little lever here and then slide down, you know, this bit here, which this one's a Torx and an Allen bit there. Stores in the handle. Pop that lever part way up to lock it. So there's a whole ton of work here to create something like this. So it's real specialty use. It is bigger. It's definitely heavier. One thing in order to help you decide is, what do you want to use it for? The primary tools are a pair of pliers and a knife. Some might say, well, I guess the can opener, but there are tools I almost never use on these things. I rarely ever use the scissors. I have, but I could almost care less if there's scissors or not. I usually have a good pair of scissors. I did a review on the Raptors, but I get why, you know, you might want it. I don't use the screwdrivers too much, but they are essential. It's kind of the classic Leatherman. I have grabbed it when I didn't have a screwdriver handy. But the knife and the pliers, and those are two huge things, and I actually usually carry a separate knife and dedicated pliers, but it is nice to have one of these ready to go. Is it worth $100 or $150? That kind of depends on your lifestyle. How much are you going to actually be doing with this? Is it just in case, throwing it in a bug out bag, or camping? You don't know. Just get yourself a good knife. If you really need some pliers, a small pair of needle nose of this quality is not very expensive. So what's the advantage of having it in one spot? And that's when I have these, I build a lot of kits. I've mentioned that. And that's where I end up using something like this, or it's a backup to my dedicated set. Leatherman is also making, you know, for people like me probably, they're trying to go after that, where they've got a primary knife that also has other tools in it. And to me, it's not the greatest knife, because it's kind of limited in its design and what you can do with it because of the handle and the size and everything. But if you had to have one tool for a particular sport or something, that's not a bad idea. Leatherman, of course, sells accessories that go with some of these. Here's some bits. Here's a bit extension. You've seen those. You can also get replacements on some of these because they are serviceable. Or you can swap out. I can have a diamond file here, or I can have a saw. And the last part of this is sheaths. There are tons of different Leatherman sheaths. So I'm going to go through a few of those. And a lot of the sheaths have carrying parts, you know, built into them for additional tools or additional pieces. So here I've got another diamond file and another saw. And then this one might go with this surge here, this big surge. So that's what's there, because these are of different sizes. One of my favorite sheaths is this big Velcro one. You can buy these separate. It's got storage on both edges here. It's got storage on the back. It actually has a wrench. This is a firearm specific wrench. This is designed for the mutt. And so it's pretty big. And you can put additional tools, such as this, with some firearm-specific bits directly into the sheath as well. So the sheath might actually have much more than just the Leatherman tool. This is kind of the old classic one with the sort of cheesy diagonal. This is what the original Wave came in. It was a sheath like this. Almost impossible to get on your belt. Once you do, you just tend to leave it because you don't want to take it off. This is one of my favorites. It's kind of just a nylon sheath, single strap. Very simple. You want to be able to slide the Leatherman in and out without fighting with it, so you want to make sure you get the right size sheath. They make them in all different sizes for the different kinds of Leathermans, because remember, the Leathermans, they can get pretty small. And in fact, I have travel Leathermans. I have a TSA approved Leatherman that has no knife, but I don't need Leatherman to build that. What I could also do is just take this knife, stick it in a vise, and snap it off. And then when TSA finds this on their x-ray, I say there's got no knife, or maybe even say I broke it off. I was coming back from Alaska once, and I had a tiny little Leatherman that a friend gave me up in Alaska. And honestly, showed up on TSA, they said, sorry, you can't take this. And I was thinking, shoot, why wasn't that in my, check baggage? And I said, can you just snap the blade off? So then it can go on. And actually the female TSA agent gave it a pretty good try and just wasn't able to snap it off with the tool she had. But she would have snapped the blade off and then sent me on my way. I'd send it to Leatherman or get it fixed. But anyway, I still have a TSA approved one, but I've got a couple other I just used it. They're actually SOGs that I have unscrewed and taken the blade out and dropped a washer in there and put it back together. So I have no knife on whatever Leatherman, actually whatever SOG I want. Anyway, back to these. They've got their standard kind of Leatherman sort of shape. This one's too small here. This might be for the super tool, wherever that went. Here we go. So sheaths may or may not come with it. There we go. Oh, that's too long. I don't know where that one went, somewhere. But anyway, leather sheath like this. They've got the standard Velcro sheath. This also has some tool storage in it. And these come in camo if you wanted, and of course different sizes. Here's just the straight leather Leatherman, a big one. I use these also for knives as well, and a few other parts that I sometimes have with me. So I love these things for their utility and solid design. Easily slip on a belt or molly on backpacks, things like that. Then here's their old school. This one, the Velcro is about shot on it. Super simple, so they went kind of, these were their originals or early ones. But anyway, those are the differences between the Leathermans. Some things to think about, and whether or not you want to spend that kind of money. But generally, once you have one, unless you lose it, you've got it for life, and it spends a ton of time with you. You're going to use it for all kinds of things, and to me, that right there is an indication to get a good one. If it was an emergency that you may never touch, get a good enough one. But if you're going to be using it, carrying it, it's going to live with you, get a good one. And with that, Doc out.